Hey guys, it's Saga, and in this video, I'm going to put the cameras on this Pixel 7a up against the ones on the iPhone 14 and see which one comes on top. I wasn't planning on making this video because there is a big price gap between both these phones. I had plans to compare it with the iPhone 13 instead. But a lot of you requested for the Pixel 7a versus iPhone 14 camera review in the comments, so here it is. I have a lot of image and video samples to show you guys, so I'm not going to waste any time and we will dive straight into the video by checking out the images which I took during bright daytime. It is summer in India, so these are basically perfect lighting conditions for any smartphone's camera. Pixel 7a gets a 64 megapixel main camera, but it only captures 16 megapixel binned images, and the iPhone 14 gets a 12 megapixel main camera. Despite of the difference in the megapixel count, actual area of the main sensor is nearly similar on both the phones. But since the iPhone packs in less pixels on this sensor, size of each individual pixels on its camera is bigger than the size of each pixel on the 7a's image sensor. iPhone also gets a much wider aperture, f1.5 against f1.9 on the Pixel 7a. And all of this means its sensor is able to capture more light and information, and this shows in its images. While you might not be able to see the details without zooming in, you can definitely tell that iPhone's images are a bit brighter. The Pixel is capturing more contrast in its images, making some of the shadows appear a bit darker. In few of the shots, iPhone 14 is making the scene appear ever so slightly cooler, and the Pixel 7a is capturing slightly warmer looking colors. As I said, it was a warm sunny day, and the actual colors look like you could see in the Pixel 7a's images. This difference is so little that you won't even notice it unless you are specifically looking for it. The iPhone is also making the colors of the scene appear slightly saturated than they were in real life. While these images look good and are ready to be shared on social media right away, these are not the actual colors of the scene. The actual colors were as they appear in the Pixel shot. Again, the difference is not that huge, but if you're looking to get a phone which captures more accurate colors, the Pixel 7a is doing a better job with that. Well, that is until I took these shots in indoor artificial lighting conditions. The Pixel is now making the shot look a lot warmer than it actually was, and in this case, iPhone is showing the true colors of the scene. In this next one, light in the lobby was slightly warm, as you can see in the iPhone's image, but the Pixel for some reason tried to cool the colors down a lot. In this process, it also made the skin tones appear a bit pale. This is a tricky shot to get right. There are different shades of white, and here the light was a bit harsh. Pixel 7a made the shot appear a bit flat, with all the shades of the white color in this shot blending in with each other. But iPhone made sure to handle all shades of the white as they looked in real life. HDR mode does a decent job with the both main cameras for moderate situations like this one. The scene is lit very evenly, and both the phones did very well to capture a lot of information in the darker parts, while not letting the brighter areas outside the window blow up. I have been saying this for the last 2+ years that Apple needs to do better with the dynamic range on their phones. It is alright for the shots like this, which doesn't demand too much from the image sensor. But as soon as the situation gets complicated, the iPhone starts lagging behind. Pixel 7a on the other hand gets the amazing dynamic range that the Pixel 7 and the 7 Pro's camera had, and that shows in its images. Take a look at this shot. Pixel 7a made everything look so balanced, while the iPhone 14 made the shadows appear too dark, and this happens too often to just let it slide. A phone of iPhone 14's caliber should not be making these mistakes. Apple really needs to step up and do a lot better with the HDR on their phones. Both these phones are good at taking close-up shots. I think the iPhone 14 is a tad faster at setting the focus on a nearby object, and it also has better minimum focusing distance. You can get more closer to your subject with its camera than you could do with the Pixel 7a. iPhone also captures a bit more light in these shots, and as you can probably tell, subjects also look tad bit sharper in its images. Occasionally, Pixel 7a won't set the focus properly until I tapped on the subject, but then I have to adjust the exposure manually to make the shot look balanced. All of this adds a considerable amount of time for taking each close-up shot. That being said, the resulting close-up shots look really good from both of them. I must say, the Pixel 7a is holding really well in this comparison, despite of it costing over 22,000 rupees less than the iPhone 14. That is the power of Google's computational image processing. Moving on to the ultra-wide-angle lens, while images look a bit brighter from the iPhone 14, it's the 13 megapixel wide camera on the Pixel 7a which seems to have captured a bit sharper or more detailed images. Well, that is unless you start looking at the edges of these images. Pixel 7a has some serious distortion towards the edges, while the iPhone 14 with the lens correction option seems to handle the corners of these shots much better. Both of them are sticking to the initial color scheme, while the iPhone 14 is capturing slightly cooler colors, while the Pixel 7a is gathering warmer tones. The good thing about these wide lenses is that there is not a huge difference between the color temperature and white balance between them and the normal lenses. This is one of the things that most manufacturers don't give a lot of stress on. But both Google and Apple have thought about it and made sure that both the lenses are very evenly matched in terms of colors. Pixel 7a gets a 2x button on its viewfinder, but just like the iPhone 14, even it doesn't have a telephoto lens, so hitting this button captures digitally zoomed in shots. You can do this on the iPhone as well, and when you look at these images, it's the iPhone who seems to have captured slightly detailed digitally zoomed in shots. Since the Pixel 7a gets a high resolution sensor and has a better image processing algorithm, I expected these results to be in favor of the Pixel 7a, but I was wrong. Even in this shot, Pixel 7a has more information in the shadows, but it is the iPhone which has captured more details and information in the entire shot. So this is another example of high megapixel not necessarily meaning more details or better images. With that, we come to the portrait shots. Both the phones do a good job with these shots, but I would much rather take all of my portrait shots with the iPhone 14. On the iPhone, it is very easy to take these shots. Just switch to the portrait mode, point your phone towards your subject, check in the viewfinder if the background blur looks good, and click the shutter button. That's it. The portrait shot is ready in an instant. It's not that simple on the Pixel 7a. Even when you are in the portrait mode, first you'll have to walk a few steps back because even with the main camera, Pixel takes portrait shots in the 1.7x zoomed in mode for some reason, which doesn't really look good. And on top of that, you can't even see a live preview of the blur to the background. You can either point your phone and click a shot, or to be sure, tap on the subject and then click the shot. The image is clicked, but then when you go to view it, there is a good 3 to 5 seconds processing time for these images to be ready. And sometimes, even after this wait, for some reason the background doesn't get blurred, which gets a bit frustrating if you take a lot of portrait shots. Even after all of this, the edge detection on this Pixel 7a isn't always accurate. This has been an issue on Pixel phones since some time now, and I feel Google needs to work a lot on getting this right. I mean, at least give us a live preview of the blur to the background in the viewfinder. When most of the phones with way lower power processors could do this, why can't Google with their Tensor G2 chip can get it done? For these reasons, I prefer taking all of my portrait shots with the iPhone 14, and if you have been paying attention, it is clearly doing a better job. With that, let us move on to the artificial and low light images. Again, the big sensor and wide aperture is helping the iPhone 14 capture slightly brighter and I should say a bit more lively looking shots. Pixel 7a's images, while still having a lot of details, are looking a bit dull in comparison. Both the phones capture enough details in these artificial elite shots to let you zoom in and maybe even crop the shot a bit. Neither of them is showing a lot of noise in these lighting conditions. As the light gets lower, both these phones continue to capture really good looking images. And I think OIS on their main cameras is helping them having the shutter open for slightly longer to capture more information. As the light got even lower, all of a sudden the Pixel 7a started making all the lights and the overall shot look a lot cooler. The actual colors of the sky and the lights here were how you could see them in the iPhone 14's images. For these next few shots, I had the night mode set to auto on both the phones, but none of them captured these images in the night mode. Again, both did not fire the night mode for this set of images, but look at the amount of light in the iPhone's shot. Not just that, also look at the details in this ceiling, which the Pixel 7a completely failed to capture. iPhone also captures much less noise in these low light shots, but we start noticing the iPhone crushing shadows in these situations. Pixel has more details, or I should say more light on the flat parts of these steps, while the iPhone has almost crushed those details in the darker parts. Even when I switch to the night mode on both the phones, you will see both the phones capturing plenty of light and details, but the iPhone is still crushing some parts of the shadows or darker parts of the scene, while the Pixel 7a seems to have gathered a few details in those parts. That being said, in the rest of the shot, iPhone seems to have captured more details and sharper things overall. I actually like how the low light shots from both these phones are, and I appreciate how the Pixel 7a with its way lower price point is almost catching up to the iPhone 14. If there is one thing which I don't like, then that has to be the image processing time on the Pixel 7a. As you know, night mode shots on any phone takes somewhere between 2 to 4 seconds to capture, but the Pixel 7a takes over 3 to 5 seconds on top of that to process these images. And until the image is ready, all you could see is some greeny mess on the screen which looks worse than how the scene looked in real life. Google needs to work on somehow reducing this time via software updates. That brings us to the front-facing cameras. iPhone 14 gets a 12 megapixel sensor, while the Pixel 7a comes with a 13 megapixel sensor and a very wide lens. I feel like these selfies are giving us mixed results. In a few of them, iPhone seems to have captured more details and better looking skin tones, while in other lighting conditions, Pixel 7a seems to have done a better job. That being said, if you take a lot of selfies, you will enjoy taking them with either of these phones. If you want a wider field of view and you capture most of your selfies with a lot of friends in them, I would say the Pixel 7a with its 20mm wide lens is a better option for you. Edge detection for portrait selfies is almost similar from both, and both of them can use some improvements via software updates. The rest of the things like details, colors and skin tones are just like how they were while taking normal selfies. Here's a video from the front-facing camera of the Pixel 7a and the iPhone 14. You can see how both these phones are handling the overall colors of the scene, exposure and stabilization when I'm walking around with them. You guys can also let me know in the comments which one do you think is picking my voice better. For the videos, both the phones can shoot 4K videos at 60 fps with their main rear cameras. iPhone 14 can actually do this with all of its cameras, while rest of the cameras on the Pixel 7a are limited at shooting 4K 30 fps videos. These 4K videos look really good from the Pixel 7a. Colors are good, stabilization is better than most of the Android phones, and 4K 60fps feels really smooth. But the thing is, this phone gets extremely hot while shooting these videos. To a point where the phone tells you that either the video quality will be degraded, or the recording might stop mid-shot, or it might not even let you shoot the video until the phone cools down. iPhone also gets hot while shooting videos, but it does so if you are shooting continuously in direct sunlight for over 35 to 40 minutes, and all it does is dim the display. I have never got overheating warning on any of my iPhones yet. Because of this fact alone, I can suggest you to go with the Pixel 7a if you plan on shooting vlogs with it. For that purpose, iPhone 14 or even the iPhone 13 or 12 are still best at it. Here's a low-light 4K video test from both the rear main cameras. Pixel 7a's video just looks like trash. There are no details, it is filled with a ton of noise, and you can see so many jitters with each step when I am walking. iPhone's videos has these flares from the light sources that you see in the frame, but at least it is not filled with noise and the stabilization is much better. So yes, for shooting videos, iPhone is still the much better option. With that, we have seen over 130 image and video samples from both these phones combined, and frankly, I am surprised by how close the Pixel 7a gets to the iPhone 14. People hype the camera on any Pixel phone to a point that you feel like there is no other better camera out there, and they did the same with the Pixel 7a. Going into this video, frankly, I knew that the Pixel 7a is not going to beat the iPhone 14's cameras, but in the end, I am honestly surprised by how close it gets. It captures a lot of details during the daytime, the dynamic range is on point, has slightly more details in the wider shots, low light shots are not that bad, and its selfies are almost tied with the iPhone 14. We also uncovered some of the iPhone's weaker points, like it really struggles with the HDR shots when the scene is complex, it is making the colors look slightly more saturated than in real life, and it really crushes the shadows in low light. With all that being said, which one do you think did better in this camera comparison? Let me know in the comments. And remember, everyone is entitled to their opinion, so be respectful of others even if they have a point of view which you don't agree with. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel for a lot more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.